To Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State under Trump's first term and Fox News contributor with me now. As we talk about the military operations, I can't forget part of your former position was to make sure that any people that we have as American citizens, as Jewish Americans, are okay too. So a couple of things to report there. Israel's main airport, Ben Gurion, has just put on its website that it is now closed until further notice, in and out flights there. What does this all tell you about how long this operation could go?
Harris, good morning. Look, I think this is going to be weeks-long effort. I've been involved in some of the efforts thinking about how one might attack this very problem set that the Israelis took on last night. They've done the necessary. Now they've got to go complete the mission. It's not just a one-night effort. This is a multi-pronged, deep strategic effort to take out Iranian leadership, their radar systems, their air defense capabilities, all the things that would give them the capacity to respond. Your point about keeping their own citizens safe in Israel, and frankly, keeping the Americans who are at our embassies and military posts in the region safe as well. This was a deep effort to do this in a way that reduced risk of response and then ultimately achieved the objective, which is to push back the Iranian nuclear program in a very, very significant way.
A short time ago, the Israel consulate in Berlin, which is the second largest in terms of, as you know, service of Israeli citizens in the world, put out a notice of things to be aware of, and they were shocking. If you are going to be in a place that has any markings of being Jewish or Israeli, take those markings down. Be careful who you're around in terms of large events, Jewish events. I mean, this sounds like we've gone backwards decades in terms of the threat on Jewish lives. But that's exactly what this is also about.
Harris, I actually think it's just the converse of that. I do agree this could be a very high tension, stressful, and indeed there may be an event somewhere in the world. It's not just the missiles or drones they'll fly to Israel, but the Iranian IRGC, the very leadership the Israelis destroyed last night, has been working in nearly every country around the world, including the United States of America, to plant little terror cells all across the world. Hezbollah was doing the same. So this will be a very difficult period. But in the end, this was not a reckless attack, but indeed what they did was decent and just and righteous and will reduce risk to the Jewish diaspora around the world. And for Israel and for the United States of America, a really good set of outcomes are in the offing. So long as Israel is prepared to finish the task, and as long as the world unites to provide continued deterrence and defense to prevent Iran from conducting all kinds of attacks. I think of cyber threats that will probably be projected around the world too. Iranians have a great cyber program. So lots of vectors for them to respond. We all need to be alert and responsive and do everything we can to deter them from coming after any American anywhere in any field.
Amen. I want to talk about what I called extreme precision that Israel hit those targets inside of Iran with, and how they've come back with some drones and are promising more. But from just kind of a world landscape looking in on this, are you surprised? Now, this is round two. You saw it with the pagers. Alex Hogan was just reporting on that last time that these two countries went at one another. Israel taking that quick upper hand and being able to hit with precision, both with that pager attack, with those explosives, and now taking out key members of those who would want to kill us.
Harris, the Israelis have demonstrated their ability to operate inside of Iran for years. And what we saw last night is that on steroids, right? Remember, they went and stole the Iranian nuclear secrets, the most important secrets, back when I was a Secretary of State and CIA director. They then demonstrated multiple times that they could stop Iranian ballistic missiles. They've taken out, with cyber campaign back a few years back, they took out Iran's capacity to continue to enrich uranium for a short period of time. These are all demonstrably the case that the Israelis have the upper hand, the Iranians are weak, and I think that will continue to play out. What they did in October to take down the Iranian air defense systems gave them this window of opportunity so that as Iran was closing in on a nuclear weapon, they could do precisely what they have done last night and what they'll do in the days ahead.
I tell you, your expertise is so needed, and I'm so grateful for it. So Steve Witkoff, now we are learning on behalf of the president, still plans to go to Muscat. So what does that mean for the negotiations that may or may not be on with with Iran and the United States and trying to keep them from going forward again, now with this action from Israel, so we know it's backed up by action, stop trying to get to nuclear power?
Harris, I think it's worthy to continue to try to convince the Iranians that they're going to lose everything. I think President Trump's made pretty clear that that's the case, to give them the opportunity to come back from the precipice that they find themselves in to date. And I think the Ayatollah must be trying to figure out, like, what's the way out of this. But I must say, Harris, I see no evidence the Iranians are prepared to voluntarily give up anything, especially their capacity to enrich and build their nuclear program. So I think it's fine that the United States says, yep, we have an open hand, we'll continue to have these discussions. I suspect the probability of the Iranians actually conceding anything is still zero. And so more force, more difficulties for the Iranian regime ahead because they don't give a darn about their own people.
Yeah, and what would you say about, because we know from Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, that there has been conversation with the United States. Early on it was said, wow, this came like a surprise, but I've been watching you this morning on Fox News, and maybe not so much. Like, we know what's needed, and Israel is doing that. Just a real quick take on where we are there.
Yes, I don't think this was remotely a surprise. I think, at any given plan, the exact moment that you'll execute is always a bit surprising. Mm-hmm. But the fact that the Israelis concluded they needed to do this doesn't surprise me in the least. I must say, too, I've talked to some folks in the Gulf region this morning already. Mm-hmm. The Gulf nations are thrilled. They want to make sure the United States will be there to help make sure that if Iran responds against them, we'll do the necessary to help them be safe and secure. But the entire region knows that Iran is the problem and not Israel. And so while they may not be able to say it quite as publicly as some others can, I know that the Gulf Arab nations are feeling a little safer and a little more secure today.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, again, appreciate your expertise as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Bless you, Harris. Have a great day.
Bless you.